Today's video, we're going to be checking out the DC Collectibles DC Designer Series Bombshells. This is figure 8, Katana. Katana, putting the tape measure next to her, is about 7 inches in height. She only comes with one accessory, and that being her katana blade. A fairly thin blade, so of course some care should be made that you don't accidentally break it. Silver looks like it's been painted in the blade itself, with a little bit of silver also added to the hilt here. It can be held in either one of her hands, and I'll talk about that in a second. We'll put that to the side, but let's first have a look at the figure. And not a bad looking figure at all. She looks really stunning here. She stands quite well also, despite the fact that she is wearing a pair of Gita wooden shoes here. And they've actually put a peg hole on the undersides of one of the shoes. So if you want to put her on a display stand, maybe for dynamic poses, you can certainly accomplish that. But the flatness nature of the Gita allow for the figure to stand perfectly fine. I don't have any issues with her whatsoever. Let's go back and have a look at the sword here for a second. Now, as I mentioned, she has both hands with the means to hold the sword. I mean, primarily at the beginning of this review, I had it in this hand, but you could easily have it also supported in this hand here. You'll also notice that she's got a finger pointing hand, which also can serve in two ways, one of which you can have it look as if she's resting her finger against the hilt or handle of the katana. But also, if you look at the artwork that comes with the bombshell figures, let's see if I can slide this out here, you'll actually have Katana here, almost as if she's saying, shh, she's saying quiet, be careful, quiet. And actually, that can be, I'll put that right to the side so you guys can see. She's got, yes, the finger right up by her mouth. Now, the only downside, though, to it is, while that would work for the figure, she has such a very bland, unexpressioned face. This goes back to a point I had mentioned when we looked at Mira, that I find both Mira and Katana are guilty of this. Fantastic looking figures, both painted and sculpted, but the faces just leave their mark. They don't deliver that knockout hit, so to speak. Case in point here also with Katana, her face is so neutral. There's no very open, wide eye sockets. There's no puckering of the mouths. There's no open mouth as if she's, again, kind of saying shh. Instead, what we get, though, is a very bland-looking facial expression, which is really a shame. I'm going to move the package out of the way here. Otherwise, the rest of the figure is gorgeous. I love the pattern and just the level of detail that they put into the piece. I mean, all the little intricate details that they've added to the fabric, both in the top black area of the main outfit, the mid-stomach or mid-chest area, and then the lower skirt has some glorious-looking decos added to it. Looks like there's some maybe orchids or flowers added to that. And we spin the figure around and she's got this really long trained skirt, which actually when you get it out of packaging, this whole section here is covered in plastic. You just have to take the plastic off. The side of the figure has some rather nice tattoo work. The only downside, though, is if you slightly tilt the figure to the side where the light's allowed to hit it, it does look more so like it's been not an iron transfer on, but something that looks like it's been like a label or decal that's been added to the side of the figure. Not really much you can do about that. Just a little small nitpick there. But let's have a look at her face once again. It saddens me, because otherwise this would be such a great figure if I felt like the face didn't look... First of all, the face looks old. And second of all, it doesn't have nearly as much the playful expression that one would expect to find with the DC Bombshells. Now, contrast to that, I've also done the DC Bombshells Katana statue. And I thought that statue was fantastic. If only that statue, or at least of the figure, could have taken cues from the statue, I think we would have gotten a much nicer looking representation here of Katana. The hair is sculpted nicely, tied off in the back with a bow and a couple of sticks running through there. You got the bow on the back here. Again, the coloring of this cranberry red, or almost like a crimson red, I suppose. Offset that with the decos and the decorations there in the lighter pink. Really brings everything to this figure to the forefront. If not for the fact that the face slightly leaves the figure feeling somewhat lackluster. She's also got a guard here on the shoulder, painted here in silver with a little bit of brown and that same crimson cranberry color added in there as well. Again, there's really a lot to like about this figure, except for the one thing I would want to like about this figure, and that be the head itself. Running through her posability, her head rotates all the way around. I will say, when you are moving the head, be very careful that you don't clip the back of the sticks that run through her hair here, for fear that, of course, you may clip those and break them off. Shoulders hinge outward, and the guard on her shoulder, unfortunately, well, fortunately enough, does not get in the way of moving her arm, so you don't have to worry about that. Swivel on both biceps, double hinge on the elbow, so it gives you that perfect bend if you want to have the finger up instead of actually holding the katana. Swivel on the wrists and hinge back and forth. Like the other Bombshell figure, she has the upper torso crunch. She also has a lower, or upper torso ball joint, I should say, a lower crunch right by the waist area here, which actually seems really stiff on this figure. So much so I can't even really move it all that much. The skirt also allows a cut on either side of the leg, allowing the legs to actually be able to hinge outward. I suppose theoretically you could get the splits going for Katana, but there's basically how everything kind of comes together on the figure. You've got the ball joint actually inside there, and it just sits into the cup, or the actual socket area of the thigh. That's Action Figure 101. Double hinge on the knee. And going back down to her feet are actually inside the gita. And it doesn't look like you can actually take them out. I suppose they're just mildly glued if you wanted to pry them out. I don't see why you would really want to take them out. But her feet hinge back and forth as well. She does also have a slight ankle rocking pivot as well. If not for the face sculpt, I feel like DC Comics' Bombshells Katana would be one of the better figures of this 4-figure wave. Unfortunately, while everything else is so good on this figure, sculpt and paint-wise, she really misses her mark when it comes to the face sculpt. The face sculpt comes across a little on the old side, and it doesn't have nearly as much the playful expression that I would hope that a Bombshells figure could have had. By contrast, again, I think the DC Collectibles Bombshells Katana statue came across like a better looking representation of the figure. So it's a little bit bigger in size, yes, but if you really want a good Bombshells Katana, I think that would be the route to go, and maybe not necessarily pick up this figure. Granted, if you are picking up the rest of the Bombshell figure line, you may want to add this one still to your collection, because even though the face isn't as good as it could potentially have been, the rest of the body and the rest of the sculpt of the figure is still really, really nicely done. So it's a bit of a torn review, because walking away from it, I love the figure, but the one thing I would want the figure to have is a great face sculpt, and I feel like Katana, while she does have really nice execution, she still misses her mark. Today, once again, we are having a look at the DC Comics Bombshells Katana. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to hit that little subscribe button down below, we are on our way to 5 million subscribers. You guys can help that by liking and sharing this video with friends. If you guys also haven't had a chance to check out my playlist from DC Bombshells, you might want to check that out as well, because I've got the Comics Bombshells coming to us from the folks over at Cryptozoic Entertainment and DC Collectibles. So it gives you kind of a full coverage of all the Bombshell stuff that I've had a look at. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you guys next time.